Okay, so here we are at Nords, the Mustang GT3. Going to do a little lap breakdown here. If you want info on the session that I'm running right now, if you want to try to recreate this, uh, moderate usage, where's here's your weather, 19C, 75% humidity, northeast wind, 10K. So here we go. Wrong button already, great. Alright, so turn one, what I like to do is right at this transition in the asphalt, I'll normally lift a bit and then brake just before the 100 board. You notice I'm not all the way on the left. What I do is when I brake in a straight line towards the outside of the track. So you see I'm not quite there, but as I brake I end up on the outside of the track here. So now what I'm aiming for is this little pylon on the inside. That's where you're trying to get the car to as you turn in. You want to brake as much in a straight line as possible and then turn in. If you start turning while you're braking, you're wasting grip. So here I go. I'm a little bit deep, a little bit hot, but there's a bit of room, so it's not too bad. You can see I missed it by like a car width, but it's not the worst thing in the world. So now we're in the Mercedes arena. This is just FYI, this is the NEC version of the circuit, the VLN layout. The actual N24 layout doesn't use this bit and uses the full GP circuit, but that's kind of the easy part, not the part we're all here for. But from here, what I try to do is I go back to the right side of the track, and from this little jut in the road, you want to try to make as straight a line as possible from outside to inside to outside on the exit of the corner to use all the track, and that's how you carry the most speed around here. So you can see I'm coming up on this little thing here. As I come up on it, that's when I'm starting to turn in. Then you got to be easy on the brakes to not upset the car, and you want to get as close to this curve as possible, even use it a little bit, like when I'm all over it really. But you'll feel that in the steering wheel. And then you can go wider here on exit. I was kind of late getting back to the throttle, so I didn't use all this track, but you can put two wheels on this ribbon curb on the outside. And eventually I'd just kind of steer myself out there because that's where you want to set up for this next tight part of the arena. There's no real, I don't really have a good reference for this. It's mostly just as you're, like right when you're at the top of second gear is when I start slowing down. But you just have to do a few laps and feel it out. Back down to first gear through here, and you want to get as tight to this inside curve as possible. So the idea is that you want to set up the exit coming back onto the next straight. So I went a little hot in here, so I'm deliberately sort of overslowing to get back to the inside here. And then from here, once you pick up the throttle, you need the lift to go through here, but you don't want to be on the brakes again until the next braking zone. So like speed up a little bit and then lift to turn in for the inside, and you want to use this curve and use as much of the track on the outside as possible without getting off track. straighten up the exit so you can get on the gas as soon as possible. So like on the curb on the inside, and you can use this green bit and use this this access road. This is part from the N24 layout, but you want to use all of that. It's like from the outside. So like I'm all the way left. Use this. Use all of this. It'll take a few laps to figure out where the actual track limits are, but that's the idea. So now coming up to the GP circuit cutout, braking just right on the 100 board here, slowing down to first. And this is a off-camber downhill corner, so you really gotta slow down and stay on the brake to keep it rotated. You see, like I'm holding the brake a really long time before I get on the gas. There's a dip in the road there that you need to be sure the car will be settled through as you pick up the gas. The key is you want to get back to this inside and use the outside. The inside on that second part of that corner. Again, you're using all the track to straighten up all the lines as possible. So now, the last couple of corners of the GP circuit, this white line here is the braking point for this left-hander. So here we're out of that slow corner, we're up to second gear. We hold second gear through this section, just brake. You want to slow down and use this green bit on the inside. You don't want to go, you can use a little bit here, but you don't really want to go this wide because that will compromise getting back to this next right-hand corner. So I'm not using all of this, so then I can swing back to set up for this next corner. In this corner, this is another one where you got to be patient and use the brake to rotate the car. The camber in the corner is a little awkward, so you got to wait until you get to the inside, and then you can pick up the gas. If you pick up the gas too soon, you'll just run off. You'll run straight off the track into the gravel. And you do want to use this little extra bit of beyond the curb that they give you here. You can see the car, I mount that and come out. So now this is not really a corner. Now we're coming up to the NGK chicane, the last part of the GP circuit. So we're braking just after the 100 here, down to third gear. And then you want to use the curb on the inside of both of these as much as you can without getting off track. Basically, if you touch, you can use this, but if you touch this race part, that's when you get off track. And then on this next part, you have to keep 2 tires on the white line. If you go 4 beyond, then you get off track. So you want to use as much of that as possible because that's just free speed. So here I did a pretty good job of using the track limits without getting off track here. So you see right near there, and then just about keeping 2 tires on the white line there. And then, so now we set up for the corner to go onto the proper northern loop. You don't want to use this curb here, just use all the track, don't use the curb. Come back out to the right. And in the Mustang with this gear stack, we go down to first gear for this uphill. This is an uphill left-hand corner. It's a bit annoying, but what you want to do is you slow the car down and then you hold the throttle. And this is how you keep the speed up the hill without overslowing. And then pretty much at this point now you can pick up the gas and go to the outside here, which is obviously you want to use all the track but don't hit the wall. So now we are on the Nords proper. So now first corner on the Nords is Sabine Schmidt's corner here. So we're braking just past the end of the barrier here, back down to first gear. And you want to get as far to the inside as you can without touching the curb. A lot of the curbs on the Nordschlife are these big raised curbs, and you don't really want to touch them because they will upset the car a lot and probably spin you. So this one you can touch a little bit. We're going kind of slow, it's not too bad, but you don't want to give away any space on the inside. So you can see it, like it almost looks like we're hitting the curb from inside the car, but on the outside you can see I've pretty much got the tires on the painted part of the line, which is just about perfect for what you want. And this gives you the most space to, you notice this is the tightest part of the corner here. This gives us the most space to pick up the gas. You do not want to use this curve here on the outside. That'll just spin you around. So now we're dropping down into Hotzenbach. This is a fast right-hand corner. This should be flat out. Might take a time or two to figure out how to do it, especially on cold tires, but shouldn't be an issue. So now coming into this technical part of Hotzenbach, so what I normally do in a race is at the end of this curb on the left, I lift, and then at the end of this second, there's this bit of graffiti and then a little gap, and then the second bit of graffiti. On that second bit is when we brake. And just another a general reminder: you don't use shadows or anything as a braking reference because they will change as the day goes on, or on different days at different times the shadows will be different. So be aware of that. And one other thing I didn't mention at the start is you want to make sure your uh, objects are on high graphic setting, because if you don't, then it won't load some signs that are on the side of the road that are useful for references, and so some of which I use that will not show up if you don't have that. So just FYI. So again, braking on as we get to the second bit of graffiti here, we're gonna go back down to second gear for this technical section. So don't want to use this curb. You can use this one a little bit, it's not so bad. Yeah, I'm like right on it. You can touch this one, it's all right. I don't like to go all the way to the out. Some people will go a little wider here. I don't like to. I think it's easier to set up the next section. So this first one, this first left is sort of flat, but you got to start slowing down for this right-hander next. So pretty much as you get to the end of the curb here, we're already slowing down to second. You want to use this curb, but you got to be careful that you're in control of the car, because if you're sliding it a little bit, this curb can upset the car. And if you use too much of it, you can also get it off track. But you want to use this one to open up the next one. You don't really, I hit this curb a little bit here. You don't want to use it too much, mostly just because it will break, it'll slow you down for the exit. You can use this curb on the right, it's not so bad. So then for this last corner of this section, right on the end of the graffiti here, you want to brake and slow down. Again, you want to get way up on this curb on the right to open up the exit, because now we're going in from here for the next like 30-40 seconds. We're flat out, so this is an important corner to get right. and you do not want to touch this curb on the inside. This can upset the car a lot. So again, we're pretty much got using this whole curb on the right. Then you don't want to go over that curb on the left. So now we're coming up to Flugplatz. This section this corner is flat out, just. If you miss the turn in a little bit, you'll probably need to lift. So normally this little access road on the left is where I turn in. See, pretty much right on it, we're turning in. This corner is cambered, so you want to make sure you get the car to drop down into the camber. That's how you get the car to turn and stay flat out. You can even use this curb a little bit. The first one, it's not so bad. And then the next one, you don't really want to touch this one. It's not really important to be close to it. You just want to make sure you're using all of the road for the best exit possible. Now we're on the run up to Schradenkreuz, this next fast left-hand corner, up to 6th gear. This should be able to stay flat over the crest. And now we're looking at this little mark on the road as our braking point for Armberg here. And you got to slow way down. It's a big, long braking zone. And this whole section is off camber, so you really want to get as close to this curve as possible. Even like nibbling on the curve a little bit is better than going wide. And you can see like it looks like I'm up on it, but I'm even still a little bit wide. Like I want to be painting this line with my tires. But like I said, like nibbling this curve is better than being wide, because you lose a lot of time if you're wide. Like it's easy to lose like half a second if you go wide there. And again, we're holding the brake a long time to get the car to rotate, and you got to be patient with the throttle. So now we got the run down to the foxhole. This compression is a foxhole here. So now we're going up through this slow technical Adenauer Forest section. So normally what I do here, is once the car is to the right of the track, I start slowing down a bit. You want to throw the car over this curb on the left a bit. In real life you can't anymore, but in this version of the track on iRacing you can. And then once the car lands off that curb, now you're slowing down for this right-hander down to 3rd gear. You want to put the car, your goal is to hit this curb on the right to make sure that you have the car set up for this next section. And now we're slowing down, not really for this left-hander, but the next one. And you don't want to go too wide, because it's not really, in this case, it's just not an efficient way to go around the track. Like we're sort of in the middle of the road here. If you go too far wide, you're just kind of making the line longer than it needs to be in this part. So you want to be inside here, and then you want to be as close to this curve as possible without touching it, because it'll upset the exit. You see we're like right up on it. And then pick up the gas as soon as possible, and you can use this curb on the exit to open up the track a bit. Now we're going up to Metzgefeld, which in a GT3 car with downforce is pretty fast, especially the Mustang. So my approach for this corner is I'm going to upshift to 5th gear here, because 4th, when you lift off, can create a little bit more rotation than we want. So 5th helps keep the car more settled. It's not quite flat out, it's just a little lift. You don't want to hit this curb. I hit this curb on this lap here. see, like, you see the front of the car bounce there. That can be really bad. It'll shoot you wide, spin the car off into the barriers. Generally not great. I kind of got away with it here. And then, so ideally, what you're doing is now there's this little bit of like cobblestone curb. You can use it a bit on the exit, but the end of that is the braking for the second part of Mitzkefeld here. Like I'm a little bit out of shape from hitting that curb still, but on the brakes to slow the car down. So you want to, this corner is cambered, so you're better being tight than being wide. And really the goal is, you'll see there's this little peak in the curb, and really you want the car to like late apex around that little peak. And you don't want to, like, you want to be a little wider than I am here, but not a ton. And it's even preferable to nibble that little part of the curb a bit than be wide, because you just lose, there's no grip out there if you're wide. So then this isn't really a corner. So now this next downhill, it's a double right, braking pretty much right on the 8K sign here. Down to second gear, and you don't want to hit this, you don't want to be near this first part of the curb, you want to be near the second part, like late apex kind of corner. So you can see, like, I'm not really, like, I'm turning in because I need to, but I'm not close. But then the second part is where I'm really getting the car turned to straighten up and leave. And if you're in control of the car, you can use this curb on the right. If you're on the left, I mean, here. If you're sliding, this can upset the car. But ideally, you should just be tracking out and using it. So now we have this little left-right flick. In a GT3 car, it should be easily flat out. Just don't, you just want to fall. This is cambered and the next one is cambered. You just want to fall into the cambers. You don't want to hit the curbs. And now miss, hit, miss. So just before the beginning of the curb on the right here is the braking point. We're in fourth gear. We're going to go down to third. So the idea is that you sort of miss the first apex, you hit the second one, and then definitely miss the third. You can be kind of close to the first one. It's not so bad, especially if you have the car slowed up and you can get on the gas early. So you see the first thing, like I'm maybe a little close. It could have carried some more speed into the corner, but it's not so bad because I'm already picking up the gas on the exit before the second part of miss, hit, miss. So this is the one you definitely want to be close to start tracking out. And then the third part, obviously I'm nowhere near it. I'm just using all the road. So now we're coming up to one of the slowest parts of the Nordschlife section. So this little, like, discolored bit of grass is where I'm normally braking. You'll normally see some like ruts in the ground as the race goes on, and you don't want to brake full force because we have to brake and turn as we drop down into this section. So we're just like slowly braking, so we're still able to turn, like here down to third, and we're going to go down to second, down to first for this really slow corner. And this is all like the camber's falling away, so you got to be kind of careful. So some people will be a little wider here. I always like to stay tight just because it's safe. And the idea is you need to get the car close, and you need to get the car rotated close to this corner so you can straighten up and use all the road on the exit here. There's this little extra bit of cobble you can use. All right, coming up to Brunchen now. So just before the end of the curb is the braking point as we turn in here. Again, this next corner is off camber, so we got to make sure we're slowed down for it. Down to second gear. I make the turn in, but I'm coming in a little hot here on this particular lap. Like you want to use the road, but you don't want to hit, like I hit the curb here. You don't really want to do that. And I was sort of able to get away with it. And now you want to get the car all the way back to the left along this curb for this. The next corner is an uphill right-hander. This next corner is on camber, but the exit is bumpy. So you need to be a bit careful. But the idea is that you want to be gentle in so you can get a good exit since it's uphill. And again, you do not want to use this curb on the exit because the car's already upset from the road being bumpy. If you hit this, you just spin. I say as I hit it, but I was in control. If you're sliding and you hit that, it's game over. Through Niki Lauda corner. Now we're coming up to Bergwerk, which is one of the most important corners on the track because we have another really long straightaway after it. So it's really important to get a good exit. So I'm looking to start braking just after this sign before the Yokohama sign. One of these signs doesn't show up if you have the graphic setting wrong, so be aware. So starting from all the way left, the curb has like many like places where it looks like it's the apex. It's not this one. It's this one where it peaks out. So you really want to get the car slowed down, and you can fall. You can see the camber in the corner here. You want to get the car to fall into the camber. And you can see there's still a good bit of corner to go, but if we do it from here, see I'm already starting to pick up the gas for the exit. Then we can get a really nice exit. You don't want to touch this curb. It's really easy to spin that way. But we're using all of the road. So now we have the Kesselson climb. Just driving uphill for a very long time. That's why we're not going super fast, even though it's such a long bit of straight road. It's just uphill. And now this is Mutt Curve, the corner of bravery in English. So with this car and setup, if you have a favorable wind condition, this is flat out. In this particular weather session, the wind is favorable. So you want to use this little bit of extra road on the right to open the corner up. You got to get all the way in to the inside without hitting that. And then there's more extra curb here on the right that you can use. And the first few times you try it, you'll probably crash because it's not pleasant to do with the Mustang. The car you really feel the car moving around and the force feedback. So the car has a lot of steering, but from here it feels like the rear wants to let go. So you have to really neutral steer the car out to the exit. It's chasing out. This little thing is flat, and now a corner before the carousel. So normally this little bit of graffiti here I will lift, and then at the beginning of this corner you brake, and you notice I'm starting from kind of the middle of the road. What I normally do is from here brake in a straight line to here and keep braking in a straight line to the inside. And this corner goes on forever, so you got to be patient and wait to pick up the gas. And you want to pick up the gas such that you end up touching the curb on the left. If you pick up the gas too early, you go in the wall. If you too late, you're just slow. So now the carousel. So normally, like in the race, like this little yellow-white bit of graffiti, I'll lift, and then this jut in the curb, I'll brake. you go down to first gear, and I'm holding the brake as you drop into the carousel to make sure the car lands and takes it. And then as you go around, you're just holding a little bit of throttle to maintain speed around the corner. And the carousel goes on for a lot longer than it feels like, so you have to be patient. And then right as you start to see the exit where you leave the carousel, you can start picking up the gas more. This corner is easy, flat. All right, so now this next section coming up to Hoact before we start going down the mountain. Normally I'll lift a little bit here at this set of graffiti, and then right at the beginning of this curb brake a little bit. You want to get to the inside of this curb, and then you can pick up the gas a little bit and then just lift to make this next one. And you don't want to touch this curb, and in this case I do touch this curb, which causes me to go a bit wider sooner than I want, so I can't use as much throttle as I would like. You do want to use this bit of curb to open the track up. I'm just a little bit slow through here, and then there's a bit of graffiti here. That's the break point for Hoact. This is the highest part of the circuit. And you want to get all the way to the inside of this corner. Again, this bit of road is cambered, so if you miss it, you lose a lot of time. You want to pick up the gas as soon as possible. You can run over this curb a little bit, it's not too bad. Alright, now we're coming up to Whippleman. This first bit is, this corner is flat, but really when you, right as it straightens out here, you want to start slowing down. You see I'm lifting here, but I'm going in a little bit too fast. I go down to third, you can keep fourth if you want. And ideally you run over this a little bit. I kind of miss it, but I'm carrying some speed, so it's not so bad. And then this one on the right, you absolutely abuse this, like you're throwing the whole car over it, basically. And you can sort of use this curb as like a backstop to catch you. And then pretty much right, so the road like dips and starts going back. Pretty much at the bottom is where you start braking for the uphill bit. In third, and I should have held the brakes more because I don't quite make this corner. I go a little wide on the exit. There's cobbles over here, so it's not too bad if you go wide, but it's not ideal. And then pretty much right on there's a VW logo here. Pretty much right on the VW logo, we slow down for the next double left. The road's dropping away, so again, stay inside. And then pretty much right before the end of these cobbles on the left, we brake and slow down for the right. We have to go over, like this is cambered and this is cambered, and we have to go over this transition. So you have to sort of delay the turn in for the right-hander, or else you end up hitting the corner. But once the car lands, we go flat. And then this flat curb, as long as you keep two tires on the white line, you're good. So we go wide, use all these cobbles to open the track up. This is YouTube corner. Pretty much at the end of this curb, we're braking, get all the way to the inside. You got to be a bit patient because you don't want to, if you pick up the throttle too soon, you just go in the gravel here. You can use these cobbles as long as you're under control and not sliding. And then just before, like right on this graffiti, just before this little black patch with nothing on it, you brake for, this is ice curve. This corner doesn't have a lot of grip, so you have to be slower than you'd like. You want to be all the way inside here, and then you can use this. You can use this on the exit as long as you're under control. As long as you keep 2 tires, you want to keep 2 tires on the actual road, you're fine. I use a lot of that curb. Uh, Easy way to spin if you're not under control. Alright, now we're coming up to the famous jump in the Flint's Garden section. So pretty much at the start of this curb, you lift, wait for the car to land. Once it does, you brake. I went in a tiny bit too hot here, so I downshifted to get some more rotation because I knew I missed the brakes a bit. And then the idea here is once you pick up the gas here, we have another long flat section. So you want to pick up the gas as soon as you can without running wide, and you need to leave yourself some room to make this left-hand corner. This isn't a particularly tough corner, you just need to make sure you don't hit this curb. If you hit the curb, you just get bounced right into the fence because there's no room here. So you want to get close to that without hitting it. You can use this on the right here to open it up. This corner is not difficult, but you absolutely do not want to touch this curb because we're about to go over a crest. If you hit the curb, the front end comes up and then you just go straight into the wall. And now we have a long flat section. You don't want to touch any of these curbs. There's a lot of camber and transition in the road. If you touch the curbs, it's really easy to upset the car. Last few corners now. Right on this orange bit of the barrier is where you want to brake. You want to have some sort of input through here, meaning like throttle or brake. If you don't have any input, then the car can be unsettled. So you see, I stop braking and I pick up a little bit of throttle just to stabilize the car. And you want to stay right. This next corner is uphill left and off camber, so you have to go slower than you think, and you want to be really inside here. If you go in too hot, it's easy to lose the rear. If you go in too wide, it's really easy to end up in the gravel. It's a really annoying corner. And then we come up to the most annoying corner, which is the mini carousel. So pretty much right on this graffiti here, we got to start slowing down. It's really annoying because it's not as wide as the first one, and the curb is right there. It's really easy to touch this curb. If you do, it's fine. It's just annoying because it slows you down. You just want to pick up the throttle as soon as you can, and you have to roll a bit more throttle through this than the first one, and you want to pick up the throttle a bit sooner and just kind of jump out, use the road that you have. And now the last corner before the long straight. So pretty much at the beginning of the striped curb on the left, you can just lift and turn in. And once the car settles through this transition, if you have favorable conditions, then you can go around this whole thing flat out. If not, then like if the track's hot or the wind is not in your favor, you can just lift a little bit at this point right here. You want to already be on the left-hand side of the track before you lift, if you need to get the car pointed back in. And then once you get all the way back to the inside of the track, if you had to lift, then pretty much this is the point that you want to be pick up the throttle, full throttle again. Like once you can see this curb on the inside here, you want to be full throttle. So like the car lands, I pick up the gas, then just full throttle all the way around. Make sure you use as much of the track on the left as possible. And now it's just just the long straight. The Mustang with this gear stack, just hold 5th gear all the way up to the Bilstein Bridge. Take 6th gear at the bridge because you're going to go downhill, pick up a little more speed. And now we're coming into Tiergarten and the last little bit of the circuit before you come back on the GP circuit to finish the lap. So right on the end of this curb on this right kink, we brake. You want to make sure you use this access road on the left to open up the next corner. Do not hit the barrier. So now we're all in the access road on the left. And you want to use this curb on the right to open the track up because it makes the exit easier. And don't touch this curb because this will just throw you into the guardrail there. And that is one lap of the Nordschlife combined. This was a 7:48.6. For these conditions, this is an okay lap. You know, I called myself out on a lot of things I did wrong. Probably easily left 2.5 seconds out there. Like for me, something like 7:46 or better would be really good. Anything under 7:50 is really fast. Under 8 minutes is a first good goal, then 7:55 and 7 minutes as you progress. So that's pretty much it. I have a second video that will be uploaded with the full uncut laps from chase cam and driver cam, so you can see what it looks like full speed. Any other questions, leave a comment. Thanks.